Have you ever seen the bumper sticker that says, "Don't make me come down there, God"? Can't you just see the old man in the sky with the flowing beard and the white hair saying, "Don't make me come down there"? That angry grandpa God. Well, as a children's minister, I often ask kids how they see God. And that image is the most common image that they have expressed. And it makes me wonder, when we think about God, why don't we think about the baby Jesus more often? Baby Jesus shatters the idea of the angry, distant God. God came down, and not in some display of crazy, limitless power and might, but rather in the fragile, dependent body of a baby born to a young mom. God wanted to be close to us. So close, God became human. So close that God is even within us. The Apostle Paul's letters tell us that God's Spirit is living inside us. Romans chapter 8 says that the Spirit of God lives in you. And in 1 Corinthians we hear, "Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" My first thought is, God's Spirit can't be living in me. I am way too human, way too flawed. If God's Spirit was living in me, shouldn't I be glowing and feel warm and fuzzy or something? But what is it really like to have God's Spirit living in us? I think it can be seriously uncomfortable. Last Christmas, I had another person living inside me, my soon-to-be-born daughter. And I remember how intensely uncomfortable I was there towards the end. Her body living inside mine pushed a lot of things out of the way to make room. And I don't mean to sound ungrateful, because I am eternally grateful to have carried her inside me. But the reality is that it was hard. She gave me indigestion and insomnia, and she made me irritable and exhausted. And remembering this experience of her growing within me, I started to think in a different way. It dawned on me that maybe God's Spirit living in us is not going to make us feel warm and fuzzy and glowing. Maybe God's Spirit dwelling in us is just as uncomfortable as someone pushing on your lungs so you can't breathe and kicking you in the gut. To make room for God's Spirit to live within us, other things get pushed out of the way, like our pride, our egos, our selfishness. It makes room for generosity, for compassion, for love. And those are beautiful words. But in the lived experience, love and generosity and selflessness are really hard, and sometimes they push against you so that you feel like you can't breathe. And they make your stomach flip over with the hard choices that you have to make to live out love in the world. So what I'm trying to say is that this Christmas, when you feel like your insides are all out of whack, you still might be closer to God than you think you are. God is not the grandpa in the sky. God is a close God. God wanted to be near us, with us, so very close, and to live in the body of a baby. When we see little ones, and there are many around us, we can remember the wonder that God chose to be in this fragile being. And maybe Jesus was even a little fussy sometimes. But miracle of miracles, that so great a God chose to be in so fragile a dwelling place. Amen.